How much does the skill of a given drummer affect your choice of microphones? Are you ever afraid a guy's going to hit a mic and break it?
Oh, of course, you know, yeah. Not very much, except for that story that I told about when I first recorded drums and I used 87s on every drum.
Uh-huh.
And I would never do that again.
In the studio?
In the studio. And the owner went nuts. Oh, you know, he hits one of those drums. Mike's, you're buying it. And, you know, he didn't hit it. But I tend to go with these mics on all the drum kits. And if a drummer hits a 421, he's not going to do anything. But you could pound nails in with those. Now, I've had a drummer knock the top off of 57. And c'est la vie. You know?
Just go out and get another.
That's right. You get another one. This is a $79 microphone.
Yeah, no problem.
Right.
What do you think about 57s? They've been around for 35 years.
I am going to tell you, when I first started playing out, I was singing, and I was looking around trying to find a singing mic, and I had, this is years ago, I had, first microphone I had, kind of like Elvis had. It was like this, and it had a switch, and it was the pre-57. Mm-hmm. And then they came out, then there was the 57, and I bought those for my band. I insisted on 57s any place I was singing. I liked those, and they said, well, here's a 58, it's the same mic. No, it isn't. It's a different cabinet. So I was with 57s, and then when I started engineering, and the 57 sounded great on snares, and it's funny, my whole life has been involved with 57s. Uh-huh. Singing, snare drums, guitar amps. If I'm trying all kinds of esoteric stuff on a guitar amp, no matter what I'm doing, I'll have a 57 on it also. Uh-huh. Just because that guy's gonna bite and come right through. I mean, this I don't know if they've ever won any awards or something, but this is a fantastic development. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you see the president talking there in those mics, those are 57s with those windshields with the little screws on them.
Yeah.
This is a fantastic development. The guy who won that should have like an award. Yeah. Or maybe he has tons of awards, you know?
Pretty good deal,
Fantastic.
Huh? 80 bucks.
80 bucks, you go in there and you go in every studio and there's half a dozen of them every place. Mm-hmm.
And they last a long time, too.
Oh, my goodness.
Most of the time.
Exactly. Until you chop the head off one. When I'm tracking, I usually go through an analog tape machine. But it's a much more involved setup to do it because I'm going to be coming off the repro head of the analog machine, and the band can't hear that way. You know? So I have to feed the band the inputs, and then me monitor different in here. So it has to be in a special situation where I'm not getting any leakage and they're not getting any leakage, so, you know. Mm-hmm. But it just works great.
When did you make your transition to digital audio?
You know, when there was, in the beginning in 1984. Sony came out with a thing called the F1, where you had a digital analog converter, and that would convert it to a stream of digital that recorded on a Betamax machine. You couldn't use a VHS because the VHS wasn't even enough. VHS still was nowhere near compared to the quality of Beta, and so I got one of those immediately, and I started mixing to that in '84. And I would still mix the analogs like I still do now. And yeah, I started mixing the digital then. And then from that I went to the DAT machines. And then Pro Tools is funny. There's a gentleman came over here last night, my friend Mike, who is teaching at Valley College. He was doing a recording. You know, psychiatrists do these things for their clients, you know. You're okay, you know. People like you. You know, that kind of stuff. You know, all you have, don't look at those weird looks you're getting. Just because you have 3 eyes, you know. But anyways, so he talked her into giving him the money up front. He said, it'll be a lot easier for you because I can use this new thing called Pro Tools. And this was in the time they had, I guess it was called the 441. That what Pro Tools had. And I had read about Pro Tools, so I said, gee, Mike, when you're not using it, could you mind if I come over and try to figure it out? And he said, no, for sure. And so I did that. But it still sounded terrible. I mean, I would try doing, you know, you would do background vocals in one chorus, I'll call you later, David. You do background vocals in one course, and then you would, you know, fly them in. Well, I would put the stuff in Pro Tools and fly it back over, and I didn't think it sounded as good as like an AMS sampler, but you could really manipulate it. And it just kept getting incrementally and incrementally better. When they came out with the 888-24, it was, to me, time for it to use them. And luckily, I had been playing around and fooling around and doing all this stuff, so I got into using it right then.